In today's episode, we're going to be talking about 6 hidden gems on the Nintendo GameCube that you should check out. Now, I'm covering 5 of the hidden gems in today's episode, but one of the hidden gems is going to be covered by the best GameCube channel on YouTube, and that is Marcello over at GameCube Galaxy. Link to his channel in the description down below, and Marcello's got a really special GameCube hidden gem for you guys, and we're going to turn it over to him right now.
Hey everyone, Marcello here from GameCube Galaxy. And my pick for a hidden gem to add to Matt's list of games for this episode is going to be Evolution Snowboarding. Evolution Snowboarding is a game that is essentially Road Rash meets snowboarding. It's unlike any other snowboarding game on the console and really is just a fun game that I feel nobody really gave a chance and critics bashed to no end back in the day. Sure, it's no SSX3 or 1080 Avalanche, but what's here is just a unique snowboarding experience that's just a lot of fun to play from start to finish. There might be some frustrating moments for sure, but the game is a unique experience that lets you ride down the mountain using your fists, your feet, chains, bats, any sorts of weapons to go against enemies in your way, as well as completing a lot of various objectives that take place across a lot of unique locales. Honestly, Evolution Snowboarding is a game that I feel just never got the appreciation it kind of deserves and is easily a hidden gem for the console. If you're curious to hear more about this game, I actually did a very in-depth review for this on my channel, so feel free to check that out if you're interested in the game. Anyway, Matt, thank you for letting me partake in this Hidden Gems video. Back to you.
For my first hidden gem, I want to tell you guys about Gladius. Gladius is a tactical role-playing game released on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox back in 2003. You take on the role of a skull of gladiators as you battle against other skulls in the region in pursuit of the championship while also progressing through a plot line involving war. There are 2 different main characters from 2 different skulls you can choose from when you start the game, one being a little bit more difficult than the other. Gladius plays like almost any other tactical and strategy RPG where you build a team of varied fighters, each with their own strengths and weaknesses as you partake in turn-based battles in a variety of grid-based arenas. Strategy and knowledge of the deep gameplay mechanics is the key to victory, and throughout the game you will acquire experience points to level up and purchase new skills, and money to recruit new fighters and purchase new equipment. Although Gladius has terrible visuals, it is an engaging tactical RPG with an interesting narrative and depth to the gameplay that unlocks as you progress, and it's also quite difficult. One of the unique gameplay mechanics utilized in Gladius is a swing meter similar to what you see in golf games, and it determines accuracy and how much damage each attack deals out. One thing I really love about Gladius is that you can play through the entire story campaign co-op with up to 4 players, and there's also a 4-player versus mode. There are not many tactical RPGs on the GameCube, but Gladius is definitely a fun one that you can sink many hours into, and definitely a hidden gem I recommend. Alright folks, before I get to the next game on the list, I want to tell you guys about a couple of gaming conventions coming up that me and Devin are going to be at if you want to stop by and see us and say hi. So the first game convention is going to be Game Jam South, and that is on Saturday, May 6th at the Von Braun Center in Huntsville, Alabama. There's going to be a lot of cool guests at this convention, such as the Zelda voice actress, Phoenix Resale, Flipping Accountant, the Retro World, Pac-Man Case, Arkansas Picker, Retro Gaming Pandemic, and many more. And then the very next weekend, we're going to be going to CorgsCon in Columbus, Ohio on Saturday, May 13th. And a few of the guests you can see at that convention are John Hancock, Adam Korlick, Jay from Square Pegs, Retro Gaming Pandemic, and more. I'll leave links to both of these conventions in the description down below. If you guys are in the area and you can make it to these conventions, there's awesome conventions with a lot of cool events, a lot of cool guests. You'll find some cool stuff. You'll have a great time. So I hope to see you guys at some of these. Next up on the Hidden Gems list, we're going to talk about The Hobbit. The Hobbit released on GameCube, PS2, and Xbox back in 2003, and it is an awesome action-adventure platformer that follows the story of the fantastic book. In The Hobbit, you of course take on the role of Bilbo Baggins throughout his entire epic journey with the dwarves, and I'm happy to say that the game follows the story of the book very closely. In each level, you will be exploring, platforming, solving puzzles, completing side quests, and fighting a variety of monsters and enemies throughout the adventure. Combat primarily consists of melee with your walking stick and later on the small sword called Sting, as well as being able to throw stones for a ranged attack. You eventually acquire the One Ring, which does exactly what you think it might do. turn you invisible temporarily. In between chapters, you can use coins you find to purchase a variety of items and upgrades to help you on your journey, and for every 1,000 courage points you acquire, you will gain a new permanent health point. I will say the combat and platforming are both simplistic and a bit janky at times, especially the combat, but if you can overlook that, there's a great time to be had here. The music, voice acting, level design, and cutscenes are all incredibly well done. So if you're a fan of action-adventure platforming games or a fan of the book itself, then The Hobbit is the hidden gem for you. Next up, let's talk about one of my favorite hidden gems on the GameCube, and that is Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy released on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox in 2003, and it is an action-adventure puzzle game that takes place in an alternate, more fantastical version of Egypt. You take on the role of two separate playable characters, each with their own converging storylines and gameplay styles. Essentially, the Prince of Luxor is cursed and turned into a mummy by the dark god Set, who wants to take power in Luxor by disguising himself as the young prince. So Sphinx and the prince, as the cursed mummy, work together throughout the adventure to stop his evil plan. Sphinx gameplay will remind you of a 3D Zelda game as you explore large environments, fight a variety of enemies, solve puzzles, and gain new gear and abilities that will help you to progress and further explore the land. The cursed mummy gameplay is the total opposite. It is more about puzzle solving using the cursed mummy's immortality to your advantage. You can be electrocuted, set on fire, smashed, and more, and use these states to solve a variety of tricky environmental puzzles. So there's a ton of variety to the gameplay between both Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy as you progress through the game to keep things interesting. If you're a fan of 3D Zelda games or just action-adventure games in general, then Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy is a fantastic hidden gem to dig into on the GameCube. Also worth mentioning is that it was re-released in an HD remaster on the Nintendo GameCube back in 2019, and it had a physical copy, so if you don't have a GameCube, PS2, or OG Xbox, then playing it on the Nintendo Switch is probably going to be your best option. Let's get into my favorite pull game of all time, and that is Pull Paradise. Pull Paradise is a billiards game that released on the GameCube and PS2 back in 2004, and it was the only pull game released on the Nintendo GameCube. In Pull Paradise, you are in a pull competition on a beautiful tropical island as you try to work your way up the leaderboard to become the champion. What I love about Pull Paradise is the deep gameplay combined with a ton of modes and unlockable content. This is a very detailed pull game. You can put spin on your shot, change to multiple camera angles, do jump shots, perfectly control your shot power, and so much more. Besides the main competition mode, there are a ton of other modes like practice, crazy tables, darts, drop zone, coconut shy, skee ball, tournaments, and more. There are also a ton of different pull game types to play like US and UK 8-ball, 9-ball, 15-ball, and much more. You earn money which you can use in the shop to buy sub games, gadgets, pull cues, crazy tables to play on, and more. Pull Paradise also has a very cool and relaxing aesthetic and style to it that adds to the charm. Pull Paradise needs a remake on modern consoles with online support because it is one of the best pull games ever made in my opinion. And if you like pull games, this is one hidden gem on the GameCube that you need to get your hands on. Before we get to the final hidden gem in today's episode, I have a special shout out to get out. I actually had a viewer reach out on a completely separate video and ask to give a shout out to their 3 kids who are fans of the channel. So we'll show that comment on the screen right now. It says, RetroWolf, I'm sure you probably don't do this, but my kids love watching you. I was wondering next video you give them a shout out, Tanner, Hannah, and Landon. Well, Tanner, Hannah, and Landon, first of all, thank you so much for watching the channel. I'm glad that you enjoy the content. Really appreciate you supporting what I do here on YouTube. So shout out to Tanner, Hannah, and Landon. Thank you guys so much. The final hidden gem on today's list is one of the best first-person shooters on the GameCube in my opinion, and that is 13. 13 is a cel-shaded comic book style first-person shooter loosely based on a graphic novel, and it released on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox back in 2003. 13 is one of my favorite first-person shooters on the Nintendo GameCube and certainly one of the most aesthetically and graphically unique in the genre at that time. It incorporated a really nice cel-shaded art direction that also leaned more into comic book look effects with comic panels and some of the zoomed in action in some of the conversations. The single player mode featured an epic 34 mission campaign spread over 13 chapters spanning a story involving conspiracies, the government, and plenty of twists and turns. It features several unique gameplay mechanics, weapons, gadgets, and a tiny bit of stealth to help you through the fantastically designed missions. 13 also features an absolutely phenomenal original soundtrack composed by a variety of artists just for the game, and it featured full voice acting with talent such as David Duchovny and Adam West. 13 is just one of those games that I think all fans of that console generation should own and play, especially if you like first-person shooters. Also worth mentioning, there was a remake in recent years that sadly was awful, so do yourself a favor and play the original version of this hidden gem of a game called 13. That is it for today's episode, covering 6 hidden gems on the Nintendo GameCube. Special shout out to Marcello over at GameCube Galaxy. Again, you guys, if you love the GameCube, click that channel link in the description down below because he is the best GameCube channel on YouTube and you will not regret it.